Oh my gosh. All right, calm down, everyone. This is just me and one other person. Nothing has gone wrong. This is my opportunity to interview a really like a person I want to call a good friend just because I enjoy her so much. Kim, thank you for being here. And this is one of our hub partners. We're going to
Ooh.
dive into the work that she does with authors, her own experience being an author. Stick around. Definitely watch this. It's going to be such a valuable conversation. Without any further delay, let me formally introduce this week's episode. If you've ever thought about writing a book, you probably realize pretty quickly that there are a lot of decisions to make. Should you self-publish or pursue another publishing path? Which type of editor do you need and when do you need them? What comes after you finish the manuscript? And how do you know you're making the right choices? Today's guest helps authors answer those questions and many others every single day. Through KWE Publishing, she and her team work with nonfiction and children's book authors who want guidance through the writing, publishing, and marketing process. They support authors with book coaching, ghostwriting, editing, design, publishing, audiobook production, and much more. What I appreciate about her approach is that she understands there isn't one right way to become an author. Some people are starting with an idea, others have a completed manuscript sitting on their computer. You know who you are, folks. Her team helps authors figure out what they need and what makes sense for their goals. In today's conversation, we'll talk about what authors should know before they begin, some of the biggest decisions they'll make along the way, and how to make the publishing process feel a little less overwhelming. I am pleased to interview Kim Eley. She's one of our Biz Book Pub Hub partners. Our hub partners are experts who support entrepreneurs along their author journey. Kim, welcome to the show. This is very exciting because I never know the backstory until I ask these questions. So
That's
to
so
kick
cool.
things off, how did you come to provide these kinds of services for authors? What is your journey to being in the seat where you're the expert others go to? And welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Robbie. I am so freaking excited to be here. And you are one of my favorite people in publishing. So I'm like, yay, this is awesome. So I am super excited to share my origin story. So what happened was, I always jokingly say, I was an English major. So of course I went into IT after college because doesn't every English major? But it worked out beautifully. I had job security because a lot of people in IT do not enjoy writing. I got into it because I love taking computers apart. I find it really fun and fascinating. And so I found a career and it was great. I was working with an amazing group of people. I actually met my husband because he and I worked together. And about 2014, we had layoffs at work. I was fortunate. I wasn't laid off. By that point, I had worked up to being a project manager, but I loved everybody at work, especially one person at work. But yeah, I loved the people I was working with. You know, several of the people on my team, I, would mentor them and work with them. And most of my team got laid off. And it was a gut punch. And I was like, I like to describe it like I was sleepwalking through my life. I was getting a decent paycheck. You know, things were good, but they weren't great. Have you ever read the book? I'm trying to think of the title of it. It has a goldfish on the front. I can't think of it, but there's an expression that the author used, which was you have different zones, and one is your zone of I can't think of it. But there's a zone of, I don't want to say
development.
goodness. Yeah. And then there's a zone of genius.
Oh, yes,
There's
yes, yes.
things that you're good. I think it's Gave Elise. Anyway, but so I realized I was in a great zone. Like I knew what I was doing, but I wasn't in my zone of genius, meaning I wasn't used what I feel like I was put here on earth to do, the things that I'm the best at. So I was like, okay. What do people do who love what they do? Are there people who actually love their job? Because most of the people I knew did not like their job. So I was looking for a book to read about that because that's kind of my go-to when I have problems. I'll talk to friends and then I'll read a book. And I couldn't find that book. So I was like, I've always wanted to write a book. Why don't I write that book? So I took the next 2 years. I wrote a book called Tickers, What Makes People Tick and Pursue a Career They Love. Robbie, believe me, when I had no freaking clue what I was doing, I was like, I'm an English major. Certainly I can do this. After I wrote and published my book, I was faced with many, many shocking realizations. Did you know, and I'm being sarcastic, did you know if you publish on Amazon that you're not automatically a best-selling author? In fact, you might sell 0 books. That's exactly what happened. I had an awesome book. I had frankly, a terrible cover. I had it edited by somebody else. I knew enough not to edit my own book, but I was so proud of that book because I had completed it. And I was like telling everybody I know, people in the coffee line, people in the post office. I'm like, hey, I wrote a book. People were like, cool, that's awesome. But I was still in my IT brain. So because of that, people would go, well, how did you do it? Well, I took them literally and I said, well, it's just 50 steps. You just do blah, 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 blah. And they were like, their eyes glazed over and I could tell I had lost them. And one woman, I was telling her all the 50 steps and she goes, Kim, I don't want to hear all that, but I would pay you to help me write and publish my book. I'm like, you would? I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And she goes, yes. She goes, she was an amazing woman. Her name was Shirley T. Burke. And she was a force of nature. She was a motivational coach here in Richmond, Virginia. She was beloved by everybody who met her. She was just a freaking rock star. But she was the kind of person who like gave and gave and people didn't really give back. And I was like, okay, I have a great opportunity here to help her out. So I charged her next to nothing. I made her swear she didn't mind that I didn't know what I was doing.
What year was this?
This was 2016. Still working full time, still in IT. So I helped her out with her book. And again, we made tons of mistakes. We ran into roadblocks, but this time I knew enough to, either look it up or ask somebody for some help. We published her book and she was so happy about it. And I'm so thankful, first, because she was so well connected. She told lots of other people about working with me. And second, later on, this is the you never know. Later on, she ended up going into surgery and passed away. And nobody expected it. She was such a vibrant woman. And so I think about that all the time, like, oh my God, what if we hadn't run into each other and her story wouldn't have gotten out?
Okay, I'm going to jump in here. Okay,
yes.
Very poignant moment, but I also want to like just pull back a little bit of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's all these like little moments of decision, like, the crossroads like throughout your story where, another person would choose a different adventure and get maybe to a different outcome. Maybe it's like sliding doors and it would all end up being the same story.
Right.
But, you're in this, I think what you're describing about just kind of like being in a decent work situation where you're enjoying your team. I actually can really relate to this. Before I left my day job to become a full-time entrepreneur, I spent a decade working at the same nonprofit and loved my like team, loved all the people, loved the mission. That was so drawn to the mission and seriously thought they were going to carry me out feet first from this job. Like, this is it.
Wow. Yeah.
And my entire team, and we had, depending on me, 1 to 3 half-time positions. So I think probably most of the time we had like 7.5 people. So during that, my time, like in my last year there, everybody left for one reason or another. Some had been there for a really long time. And the director, I was sort of the second in command at that point, sort of in some roles. The director was there for about a year and everyone had come in after him. And it turns out who you spend time with matters so much. And so the magnetism to that role started to slip. and the thinking of maybe doing something else started to become a reality. So it seems like you had given yourself that permission to consider what comes next, despite being in a kind of comfortable place, making decent money, doing something you enjoyed, not exactly your zone of genius, but you didn't really know to even question it. This next piece I want to ask you about, though.
Yes.
You can't find the book, like, like there's so many, like, What Color Is Your Parachute type books out there. That's like a classic that helps you try to understand who you are and like what you're drawn to and what will fulfill you. But you were trying to find even more of like the spark that ignites people's passions for the work that they do. And like, did you interview people as you were creating that book? Like, how did you create the content for that first book that you yourself really desperately wanted to have exist in the world when you needed it? Did you how did you create the initial manuscript?
Oh yeah, thank you. So I started looking around. I'm like, who are people who I know or have met who are really passionate about what they do? When I was in IT, I was voluntold to lead our ISO International Standards Organization and also our CMMI compatibility matrix something integration. It's been a long time. And we were able to achieve these high standards. Anyway, I say all that to say, we went to this amazing conference in Denver, and I met this man, Bill Smith, who knocked my socks off. He taught CMMI, which is boring, but he made it so fun and interesting. He developed the coursework in such a way it was really fascinating. He had these flying monkeys. They were like little stuffed animal slingshots that he would fling out in the audience. He came out playing AC/DC. I was like, oh, snap. This is not, this is awesome. So I knew I had to talk to him. There were a couple other people who were no-brainers. There was a cross-country coach at my high school who was very inspirational to his students, and then later on ended up needing a liver transplant and was basically at death's door, ended up using all the things that he taught his students on himself. Then I started finding other people, people who are in careers where you're like, how do you get that job? I talked to a woman, Samantha Martin. She runs the amazing Acrocats. It's an all-cat circus, and she has cats jump through flaming hoops. And she has the Guinness Book of World Records record for the only all-cat band. And another woman I met runs a travel company. Check this out. It's called Magical Mystery Tours. And what she does is she interviews you, gives you a big questionnaire, and then you don't know where you're going on vacation till you show up at the airport, open your envelope, and all your whole trip is planned out. Now, they do ask if you're going to go somewhere cold. They let you know if you're going somewhere cold or not. So
this is amazing. So what I love about this is that once you start to say, I want to find people who are passionate about the work they do, there's a snowball effect where like it's sort of like looking for like you're about to buy a red car. You just bought a red car, right? It's that whole thing.
Yes.
Now, Dory Clark, who I adore, I used to mention her so often. My friends created a drinking game.
Okay, that's funny.
So Dory, who's an amazing author, speaker, coach, human being, she told me that like her approach to writing books has often been like interview 50 people because it's something she wanted to learn more about. And then that becomes both her education and the things she then packages beautifully for others to consume. That kind of book, I think, one, it's original data. Like one of the things I want to call it all things, even though you knew nothing about the promotion and the rest of the things, that's a smart approach. Most first-time authors assume they know everything they need to know in this topic, and they just want to like go into a little hole, a closet somewhere, and like write in secret this amazing thing that they and only they know about. But just by virtue of you going out and talking to people and doing the interviews, you're creating some buzz. Now, you didn't have a direction for the buzz. You didn't have a next step plan. And I think that's the case for a lot of first-time authors because it's just unclear because we can't see around the corner and we don't know enough other authors to even imagine, envision that new future. But having that as an approach gives you, I think, a lot of credibility for a book like that. Enough so that this amazing person decided to entrust you with helping her create a book. And then there's lessons learned. My first book, I wrote and published in 2017. I tried to write it from 2015 and through the end of 2016. But I didn't actually write anything. I debated publishing pathways.
Yeah.
I researched proposals. I fretted over titles. I mean, it was like everything except the actual writing. It was like noble obstacle after noble obstacle after noble obstacle. Attended several sessions about publishing pathways. Finally, in 2017, I got serious because I joined a community of writers and authors.
Awesome.
Never expected to do it again. And the thing is, I remember at the end of the process thinking, wow, I just learned a lot for a thing I never intended to do again. That's a lot.
Right.
And so it's good that you at least got to practice what you learned and refine it with somebody who trusted you to do that. So jump in here.
Oh, thank you. I love that. I absolutely love that because it's true. And I'm sure you have heard this term, but I often will refer to pantsers and plotters.
Mhm.
And I am very much a pantser. I'm like, hot dang, let's get started. I have an idea. And then I'm like, oh, how is this going to fit into my general worldview? I always admire plotters who are like, okay, let me get all the steps, let me get it together. But it's a little balance of both, right? I don't think we can purely be one or the other, because then we might never ever write the book, right? It's like 10 years later, I'm still studying the best way to do it. So I think it's so important to jump in. And you're right. As you start writing the book, it's the red cars that you see everywhere once you buy a red car. What you mentioned, you start running into other authors. Now, part of it is people go, oh, Robbie's writing a book. You know who you should talk to, Robbie? Let me introduce you to, whoever. And so part of that is it too. And then also, I love what you say about it was unintentional. It was for me as well. And I also partner frequently with Morgan James Publishing and David Hancock. And he had a similar story where he was like publishing his book. He's like, there's got to be a better way. And he's like, haha, I've learned so much about this. Now let me do it. So it does, as you gain that knowledge, you also want to share it. I think it's exciting. And you also want to go, oh, no, don't do that. I did that mistake.
Oh, yeah, constantly. I feel like big part of why I started even talking about my process was to point out the potholes.
Yes.
Right. There were some really obvious obstacles to avoid. I didn't feel like I knew the most, of this topic, but I knew more than a lot of the people asking me questions. At the end of my launch each time, so starting with this first one, I hosted a masterclass for my launch team about my launch strategy, which I will tell you now was the most stressed I've ever been for any launch ever.
No.
No, I mean, I condensed it to the tightest time frame possible. I didn't, even though I knew there was some technology that I could have used, like Google Forms, I had people emailing me their review, and because I knew it enough to like collect it, but then I was forwarding that to an assistant who was copying and pasting it and mistakenly replacing other rows of text in the spreadsheet.
No.
I mean, like every mistake, like that's when my hair started to thin, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like that was the moment they were just like, we're gone, we're out of here. This is too much. Right. But you think there's got to be a better way. And so I decided to reveal both like what worked and what I would do differently. And then I did that in 2017, and I didn't want to be known for book launching. I had another whole life I was trying to be known for. And this is where I think it's so interesting, because you were not you didn't have a destination mapped out. You had a job in IT, which was going okay, but you were now feeling less like fulfilled. Yeah. You had the writing skill. You love to educate. So I think part of your role in IT probably was to translate things for people. I had a friend who had that job. She was a really good communicator in a community of people who were not, and that's a very revered role, that you need those people. But like, it's like, at what point in this process did you realize that you were going to commit to working with authors? Like, it's one thing to dabble. I dabbled as a launch kind of like helper, coachy person for years.
Yeah.
With no formal program defined. It was like, get on a few calls with me and I'll talk you through a process that I have. Process being a very, in quotes, word. I didn't have a process. I had like an experience to share. I didn't have a process to share. I had an experience and a gut reaction. But when did you say, you know what? This is it. I'm going to plant this flag. I'm committed. I'm going to build this whole business around it. And by the way, if the answer is not yet, I'm going to be very laughing at you. All right, Kim, go for it.
Yeah. So it was sort of a number of things that happened all at the same time. I was publishing my book and figuring out what was going on with that. I was still feeling like, okay, I've written this book. I want to be one of those people who does what they love for a living. It was very meta. It was like, oh, I'm kind of loving doing this for a living, like writing the book. But I realized I really enjoyed interviewing people. I've always been somebody who people come to and go, can you correct my paper? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a great editor, but I don't feel like, and I'm not putting myself down, I don't feel like I have that creative, muse that a lot of people have where they create these stories. I'm like, where did that come from? But I am a kick-ass editor and I had the project management background.
Right.
I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And a couple of things happened. It's going to sound weird and not connected, but they were. My dad was very sick, and I'm an only child, and my mom had passed away already, and so I was going through a hell of a lot. I won't go into that, but it was a lot going on. And at the same time, and this is going to maybe sound weird, I felt this strong call to check out being a life coach. And I was like, I hate the words life coach. I don't know why. It makes me think of like somebody in one of those gray sweatshirts with a whistle around their neck. I'm like, but all the things that life coaches do appealed to me, helping people figure out their stuff, but it's not prescriptive. It's not, you know what, Robbie, you should be doing blah, blah, blah. It's, Robbie, what would you like to do? What would doing this feel like to you? I ended up, it was actually from the ICU conference room, listened into a talk about Martha Beck, who is an awesome author I absolutely adore. And she has what she calls a wayfinding class, which is a much better title than life coach. So I ended up, anyway, short story, I ended up taking her training, and all the things that I learned, I applied them to myself, and it was perfect timing because then my dad passed away and I really needed all that stuff. But dang, if it didn't help me as I worked with authors, because I'm sure you run into this. So many people are like, well, I'm not a writer. Get those words out of your mouth. And then people are like, well, look at all these books. So many people have written this book. Who am I to write it? And I'm like, who are you not to write that book? Because everybody, I can tell you, if you name any genre, books that I've read in that genre and they did not resonate with me. And then I find the book and I'm like, I get it now. Have you had that experience?
100%.
Right? Yeah. So anyway, it was a convergence of all those things. I was picking up my business, maybe because people were talking about me, and Shirley put out the good word. Thank you, Shirley. And so things were picking up. I started getting so busy. Working full-time IT and doing the books was making me really exhausted. And finally I realized, I'm like, people keep coming out of the woodwork to ask me about books. Everywhere I go, I'm at a party, I'm at a meeting, people are like, hey, I heard you wrote a book. Can we talk? And that's when I realized in 2017. So November 2017, I quit my full-time job. I had already started KWE Publishing. And that's when I officially hung up my shingle. And Robbie, I was scared to death. I was like, what if I've made the worst mistake ever? And guess what? It's been 9 years. I started KWE in 2016. So technically it's been 10 years, but it all worked out.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Dory, to bring her up again for those who are paying attention, drink. Uh, so the thing she said to me, you'll know it's time to quit your job when it gets in the way of your business. I'll repeat that for those
Perfect.
who are listening in. You know it's time to quit your job when it gets in the way of your business, because you don't want to quit your job and then try to figure out what to do.
No.
It's like you really shouldn't quit a job without a job being lined up, right? Like same idea. But there comes that moment, and for me, I had a lot of vacation hours accrued because I'd been there
Yeah.
for so long. I was using 1 or 2 days to go and do a talk. Like if it was in the same state, I would take a day and drive out, do the talk, come back, and
Yeah.
that was one vacation day. And
Yeah.
then if it was like further, I would take a few vacation days. I started taking Fridays off and use Fridays to start working on the business. So I started kind of stealing time. Like I couldn't do both perfectly. I thankfully had that little bit of leeway. But yes, at some point, like the pull to do one thing kind of calls you more than the other one was. And it's nice to have a little traction. Now, once you say yes to the full-time plan of being the entrepreneur, wow, you discover there's so much more you need to do. Could you
Definitely.
describe actually I know I said a bunch of things in the intro about the kind of work you do, but
Yeah.
you seem to have two audiences, entrepreneurs, which is, you and I overlap with that, but you
Yeah.
also work with children's book authors.
Yes.
And what's the range of services? Like at what point do they come into the process with you? Are they have an idea, or I have a manuscript, or do you have sort of a way to kind of meet them where they are?
I like the latter. Meet them where they are at. Most of our authors are first time authors. We have a mix of authors who have already written their story and they bring it to us. I think most often they've written part of it, but they need help with writing the rest. Maybe they shoved it in a drawer and they're pulling it out. And with children's books, so with the nonfiction, it's most people may not have written their whole book. With children's books, generally they've written the whole book. And it's so funny, quick aside, I think a lot of people think children's books are short, so they're easy. They are not easy. You have to pay attention. It's just like poetry. Because of the paucity of words, every word matters. Every word matters. So anyway, that quick aside. But when it comes to helping our children's book authors, most of them get tripped up looking for an illustrator. And so one of the things that we do is we help our authors to identify, what's your budget? What's your schedule? Well, with all of our authors, I should back up. We say, what's your intention? What does success look like to you? What's your message? What do you want to put out there in the world? And then who's your ideal reader? But especially with children's books, ideal reader, you're focusing on, is it for the little kiddos? Is it middle grade, et cetera? And then looking for an illustrator, a lot of people don't know what they don't know. And so the first thing we help them identify is, what art style are you drawn to? So I often will share websites people can identify. What's your budget? What's your schedule? And then we help coordinate with them to talk to the artists, because sometimes the artist will ask them questions and they're like, I don't know, I've never written a book before.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're asking.
No, I
me.
feel like you're a broker and a translator at the same time. Like
Yes.
you need to help them. And I love that you ask these intentional questions to the entrepreneurs. I created the Author ROI Lab to help folks decide whether they're even working on the right book for their business, because so many of the people I've talked to whose books are in the last stages of being edited, formatted, finalized, and ready to be published cannot, in conversation with me, articulate not just who their book is for, but define them in a way that helps me understand like where we would find that group of people. Like they give me these like vague notions. I remember one person was like, I don't know, like recent college grads. And my brain immediately was like, recent college grads, where do they hang out? Unemployment office.
Right.
Where else? Like, I was like, I'm sorry, I don't think this is gonna be helping you.
Yeah.
So I just think it's there's a lot of vanity in the creating of a first book, because you don't really know the full potential of what this book can do for a business. And I just want people to be more strategically thinking about it. Now, there are reasons that sometimes, a memoir could just be a memoir and it serves the purpose of you wanting to tell your story. I've also worked with someone who wrote a memoir that was very aligned with his business. It explained to people why he was the right person to work with in that space because he understood them. And that was interesting because he didn't think of it as a memoir. He thought of it as a long way of saying, I understand you.
I love that.
Well, he was a financial planner who worked with people who had experienced extreme loss, who were going through incredibly challenging times. And he had gone through a number of those moments in his life. And he is the go-to person in his space. Other people in his field pull him in when a client they've had for decades suddenly has that extreme moment. He's brought in. And so that is where, understanding how you're going to use a book helps you write a better book and helps you launch the book and get it into the hands of people who need it. And that's the piece I'm focusing on. So what are, you described some of the problems you're solving for them is helping them find the right resources. Your project management background is probably incredibly helpful to them because I have self-published all of my books. And by that, I mean purely I'm at project manager. I don't recommend it, by the way, as I say it.
Don't do as I say.
No, but I am, very detail oriented. I have the project management skill, strong opinions about things. What changed from book 1 to book 4 was the quality of the people that I hired. Right. For book 1, I was hiring someone off of Upwork. And when I said, I don't want to look like a self-published book, she said, huh? Why?
Oh, wow.
And I was at a conference looking up gutter margin measurements for the width of the book I wanted because she had only done 6x9 and mine was going to be closer to 5x8. And she just couldn't understand how to format this the way I wanted. And that's what I mean by I learned too much not to share it. I also didn't know what I was doing and I checked off the expanded distribution button when you were uploading to KDP, and then I went to upload it to Ingram Spark, and then I was like, why is this asking for a new ISBN? And what is going on? This tangled mess I've created. So now I'm like, I'm not publishing your book, but I want you to know, don't check this box.
Exactly.
I'm like, just here are the major things to avoid. But when people are brought to your attention, they're like, you got to talk to Kim. Is there a couple of overriding problems that you are known for solving? Is it because you're calm in the face of certain chaos? What are the things within the world of publishing that you're particularly known for entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. So I think part of it is, kind of that balance between is it a memoir? Is it a business book? And I think too, frequently we work with people who they're tech savvy, but they don't want to totally learn this whole system. There's so many moving parts when it comes to publishing. And I think they've gotten to that point in time where they realize that their time is more valuable hiring somebody else to do it who shares their vision. I want to include that part because like you mentioned, you can hire anybody, but
sure.
Do they know what they're talking about? And I think also they know, like, and trust me because I sit down and have a conversation with them. We do what we call their strategic plan, which is intention, message, and ideal reader. And I really get to know, what is what's going to light you up? What is going to be success to you? Are you wanting to speak in more rooms? I worked with an amazing author who is a huge advocate for, it's called late onset hearing loss. And her name, Valerie James Abbott. And she is a force of nature. She is a dynamo. We did a children's book together and she just published this year a nonfiction book based on the fact that so many kiddos have normal hearing at birth, get tested, and then between the ages of 2 to 4 lose their hearing. And it can happen for a number of reasons. And so she really wanted to get out there and be like, I want everybody to know this. I want to change the rules. I want it mandated, that things get done about this. Anyway, I'll say all that to say, I saw her vision. I was able to give her that project management. We were like, okay, this is a 16-month plan. Here's
awesome.
how we're going to do it, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm part cheerleader. I'm part, a definitely big part project manager. But also, I think because of who I am, people don't mind. And I welcome, I'm like, all of your questions are welcome. I think so often when we're in a new space, and I know I feel this way with a lot of things. I don't do my own accounting, for instance. But when we're in a new space and we're out of our comfort zone, you want somebody who goes, here, I get you. I see you. This is where you want to be. Come with me. And also, you know this, there's so much information out there. It can be like drinking out of a fire hose. It's like,
Right.
I don't know what to follow. So I like being that trusted advisor, but also it's very collaborative where I always want to ensure it's their authentic voice.
This is why I'm so grateful you and I are getting to know each other better, and that you become one of our Biz Book Pub Hub partners, because I really want to bring together a community of experts who are excited to educate about like the possibilities and the challenges that an entrepreneur will experience when writing a book. Because whether it's the first time or the third book, like there's going to be a different set of questions, and having an outside voice that's trusted, who doesn't just say like this is the only way, like who understands what the goals are of the author and will support them in reaching those particular outcomes and giving them the strategies and the support to follow through. And so it's so funny. Like I had just assumed you were already in because you and I already were collaborative, like referring people to each other and all that. So,
Right?
so you recently joined, and I know you haven't fully gotten a chance to experience it, but the idea of gathering people who have that shared vision of supporting entrepreneur authors, I know that's something you believe in. So, what are your thoughts about those kinds of spaces?
Oh yeah, definitely. You mean the collaborative spaces,
Yeah, like Biz Book
like
Pub
that?
Hub is about having his curated directory. We have our networking events. We have this podcast that you're on.
I freaking love it. First of all, I love having the community because we share ideas and we all learn together. The second reason is everybody benefits, right? Say somebody comes to me and they're not a good fit for me, but I'm like, oh, shoot, I'm definitely going to refer them to Robbie. I'm going to refer them to Carol. I have people I know, like, and trust who I feel confident, sharing. And also, I feel like because of that, naturally, people will refer people to me as well. Just because I do what I do and you do what you do, that doesn't mean we're the right fit for everybody.
Yeah, I also found one of the sort of side benefits that an unexpected benefit of the hub was partners who came in doing a lot and have since decided to kind of narrow their lane. In
Ooh,
particular, I can think of someone who was a writing coach who had become a publisher. Because when you're a writing coach and you're not already plugged in to other publishing spaces, when your authors like have a book, you're like,
yeah.
well, okay, I guess I'm gonna now show you how to put it online. Like you de facto become their publisher. And she was like, I don't want to do more than like, I like the part that I have with the writing and helping them even edit. So she found that she could then steer people to other folks who do more of the publishing thing. I have a assisted sub publisher who said, you know what, I'm no longer doing editing. You've got to bring me a finished manuscript. So if you come to me
Yes.
without a finished manuscript, I will point you over to some editors I know. And when you're done with that process, come back and I will walk you through all the next steps to get it actually on Amazon and all the other places. So I just
Love
think
it.
like talking about zone of genius, right? It's
Yeah.
like clarifying. Like for me, I'm working really hard to not expand beyond the launch piece. I'm getting into this business of, is it the right book for your business? Because ultimately that will help someone launch their book. But I'm not expanding from that to, I'm going to write this book with you. I'm like, no, no, no. If you decide, yes, this is a great book and a right time, I'm going to direct you to folks like Kim. If you're like, I need to do more research, this doesn't seem like it's quite right yet, I'm going to be like, great, smart, slow down, maybe do a pilot of something. And then the third option is, it's not the right time to write a book at all, and I need to do something else, which I think is a great answer. And I'm agnostic about your outcome on that question because I'm not a writing coach and I'm not a publisher. So I'm not pushing people to have books. I think that when people commit to writing a book, I love that they're being surrounded by people like you who ask the right questions and keep asking the right questions to make sure it stays aligned with what they originally said. This is why my vision is, this is why I'm doing this, because it's so much work. And for it to be just a product and not actually being leveraged to like that, it's just like, it makes me kind of a little sad,
It does. It makes me sad as well. I'm like, oh, this book is amazing. Everybody should know
right?
this.
Like your first book, right? Like all that, like
Yeah.
that experience. And I mean, that's what's so hard. So as we wrap up here, what is the advice that you would give someone who's writing a book to help them grow their business? Like it could be something you've already said or something brand new. Like where would you tell them to really stop and contemplate?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So is it the starting the business or writing the book or both?
Well, if they're writing a book to help them grow a business, so
Oh,
presumably
okay.
they're already doing something and now they're thinking about a book in relation to it. They want the book to somehow be relevant to that.
Absolutely. Awesome. So I think thinking first to themselves about their strategic plan. What do they want the book to do? It's not just I've written the book. I always like to say, project, it's a year from today. You're holding up your book. What are you going to do? Are you holding it up in front of an audience of people and they're going to purchase it? Are you putting it online? Are you sharing it with potential new clients to win business? What do you picture your book doing? A lot of times then, this is going to sound funny. A lot of times people don't know what type of publishing they want to do. I absolutely adore Jane Friedman.
Mhm.
And so one thing I do, I always share, she has a chart that's publishing paths, and it breaks it out all the way from traditional to self-publishing and everything in between, because people will come to me and go, oh, I only want to traditionally publish, but I'd like to have my book in 3 months. Well, I have to break it to you. I don't think that's what you want. And just know that there are options and do what's right for you. Yeah, that would be my main advice.
Yeah, I think that whole publishing pathways thing is like there are two questions that seem to be the first ones people ask. Usually, how do I publish this book? The book's not even written yet, right? But like
Right.
that's, and I spent 1.5 years or 2 years like asking that question. I went to several sessions at several conferences about publishing pathways. All a delaying tactic, really. Learned about writing proposals and so anyway, the second question is like how do I get to be a #1 bestseller on Amazon? So I'd love your thoughts on this. Like there's a lot. I mean, it is such a it's literally one of the first things people want to know. And I know so many publishers feel kind of stuck because it's the thing people ask for.
Yeah.
How do you help people think about that when they come to you and say like, I'm writing a book to be a #1 Amazon bestseller? And you're like, what's the next? What is the conversation like?
So one thing I got from taking Martha Beck's Wayfinder is the thought that I always strive to be TAO, transparent, authentic, and open. And transparently, before I wrote and published my book, I was like, yeah, I want to be an Amazon bestseller. Once I saw how the sausage was made, so to speak, it's like people, and I mean no offense to anybody who is an Amazon bestseller, that's great, but it could mean that you've only sold 5 books and you're an Amazon bestseller, depending on the category that you've selected, etc. It's more important, and this is one reason I absolutely love what you advise, is as you're launching, get bona fide proof, get the reviews, get the word of mouth, have pre-sales, have actual sales. That to me is the real proof in the pudding and more authentic. And you probably will get a bestseller along the way. Awesome. But it's more important that your book is getting the visibility, that you're getting genuinely seen.
Yeah, 100%. You're speaking my language. I for my first book, I hit #1 in 3 US categories. Truth be told, I probably hit #1 somewhere else, but I didn't know to look,
Yeah. Yeah.
time. But I had 3 categories, nailed them. I hit number one now 37 times across 4 books, 4 countries during the launch. I've hit number one probably dozens of times other than during my launches. I'm not even keeping track because it like every time I do a Kindle flash sale, 2 of my books will hit number one, and I do those 3 times a year. So I'm not paying attention. But none of that changed the success of the book or money in my bank account. It's a snapshot at best. I do have a really fun screenshot of my book being it's Malcolm Gladwell and Seth Godin had books. My book is number one. Theirs are 2 and 3 in a book about market research, which I
That
knew
is
was the right
fun.
category. And I thought this is a stretch. You know, these 2 gentlemen have new books out, which also stirs up all their old books get on hot selling streaks. But I thought, you know, I can get in the top 10 and that'll still be a good company. I
Yeah.
grabbed that screenshot. It is the top of my LinkedIn on the rotating basis there. But the thing is, you know what's not going to show on my book sales page on my book's Launch Your Book, An Entrepreneur's Guide to Reviews That Drive Revenue. You will not see that I was number one in front of Malcolm Gladwell and Seth Godin. I almost called them by their first names, but I won't do that. But you will see that there are 260 written reviews and 267 ratings. So that's like the proof that you're talking about. And a byproduct is if you're going to drive that many people to go buy your book while they're leaving a review, yeah, you stand a pretty good shot at hitting number one. I just really want to be educating authors about asking better questions. It's kind of like I hired a guy years and years ago, we became good friends, to help me do graphic design. This is around the year 2000, okay? I didn't know his whole portfolio, which turned out to be expansive. And you know, like he worked with the Olympics. I'll just say that he worked with Sony, he worked with the Olympics.
Wow.
He was the guy. What was I arguing with him about? The angle of the no stamp needed on the return address envelope. And he said, this is why I pay for design malpractice. Use my hands however you'd like. And he taught me how to work with a designer, how to ask better questions. Instead of saying, I want this to be bold, instead you'd say, hey, how can you make that pop? I need that. That's the critical piece of information. I need to stand out. And then he has 17 ways he could do that. But I think that's the issue with authors is they don't ask these sort of open-ended questions about how do they achieve the outcome that they're looking for. They drive to one endpoint in their mind. That endpoint is hitting number one and then putting it on their cover and all this other stuff that is so when you know how it's working and you're like, that just calls attention to the fact that the book's not traditionally published. Like, FYI.
Exactly. Like you really don't want to do that.
You don't really want to do that if you're trying to do this with the business in mind. And so, yeah, great conversation with you. How can people find you and follow your work?
Absolutely. So go to my website. It is KWEPUB.com. And yeah, and also I have a really fun free weekly newsletter on Substack. So subscribe to it. We share lots of cool things, including promotions from amazing people like Robbie. Yay!
That's fantastic. We're going to put all the links in the show notes, including a link to your LinkedIn, to your Hub partner profile, which has got a whole description of what you do. We'll put eventually the video from this on that page as well. If you go to bizbookpubhub.com, you'll find all these links and all the archived episodes and their show notes. We also have that curated directory of experts that have like folks like me and Kim on, lots of awesome people. All the people are offering something generous if you want to check out a gift from them. We have virtual networking events every month. We have a nascent blog. We're just getting started. Our Kindle flash sales and just so much more. Go to bizbookpubhub.com to check it all out. Kim, thank you for this conversation. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. I'm so grateful.